Are solved issues in software engineering benchmarks really solved correctly? Spoiler alert, they are not. Essentially, what this study went over is that anywhere between, I believe it was up to half of the benchmarks that are being used, sometimes as low as like a third, which, okay, that's better than a half, but there is a huge error rate or just a simple non definitional rate of benchmarks. So let me try and explain it a different way. You take an LLM, you take ChatGPT, let's say, or Grok, and the benchmark is, can you answer the questions that are presented to you in terms of creating code that solves a problem? And then you go look at the answer and you grade it, right? That's the benchmark. The output of the code has to be studied and looked at and then graded against what would otherwise be human answers. Okay, that's how these benchmarks typically work. So that's why Elon came out with Grok and he said, "Oh, it solved PhD level stuff because that was human-based benchmarks that they compared it to." All the benchmarks that are out there, all of them, all have huge fundamental issues. For example, as simple as no one can recreate the benchmark outcomes because they don't have access to the benchmarks themselves. Or let's move on to this next article. AI benchmarks are a bad joke, and LLM makers are the ones laughing. Study finds many tests don't measure the right things. A study from researchers at the Oxford Internet Institute and several other universities and organizations have found that only 16% of 445 LLM benchmarks for natural language processing and machine learning use rigorous scientific methods to compare model performance. Yep. What's more, about half the benchmarks claim to measure abstract ideas like reasoning or harmlessness without offering a clear definition of those terms or how to measure them. AKA, all of the wild claims that these companies make. Oh, we passed this benchmark with 90% accuracy. Look, it's going to beat PhD level stuff. Pretty soon you're going to be asking it physics questions. It's going to find so many, new physics stuff, etc., etc. It's all BS. All of it is BS. They don't even have definitions for half of the benchmarks to definitionally place guardrails on what these things even mean. This is insane. And yet I have I've been on some debates with people behind the scenes where they go, "I just got out of a Google meeting and they told me that it passes all the benchmarks. Their new AI passes all the benchmarks that are out there. And Spiro, you're wrong. AI is going to take over everything." Yeah? Tell me again how it is. Here's an example. If a benchmark reuses questions from a calculator-free exam such as AIME, I don't know what that is, the study says, numbers in each problem will have been chosen to facilitate basic arithmetic. Testing only on these problems would not predict performance on larger numbers where LLMs struggle. This is huge because it means that we don't even know how good these things are. And to Amagod's point here, if they did actually set rigorous benchmarks, yes, it would show that the emperor has no clothes. That's right. This is damning. Yeah, that's right, Laughley.